Welcome to the Film Florida podcast. I'm John Lux, and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Thanks for downloading this episode of the podcast. Today, our guest is Florida actress Brooklynn Prince. Brooklynn burst onto the scene at age 7 with her performance in The Florida Project, but she started her career at age 2. We talked to Brooklynn about getting started in the industry, everything surrounding The Florida Project, and opportunities that have come her way after her breakout performance. Before we talk to Brooklynn, though, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Film Florida podcast. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. Finally, we have a Film Florida merchandise page. Check it out at teespring.com/stores/Film Florida to purchase Film Florida t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and now protective masks as well. Here's my conversation with Brooklynn Prince. Thanks for joining us on the Film Florida podcast, Brooklynn.
No problem.
First thing is first, Brooklynn, and I want to apologize to you. We had Sean Baker on the podcast in season 2, and I referred to you and called you Brooklynn Price. And of course, he corrected me, and I felt terrible. So I just want to apologize to you first and foremost to start there.
No, it's fine. When I was younger, people mispronounced my last name and my first name a lot because we were at this school raffle thingy and they were handing out the prizes and they're like, Brooklynn Prime and Justin Prime. And then the guy was like, I know an Optimus Prime, but not a Brooklyn Prime. And I was like,
yeah, it's really simple, and that's probably why it screws me up. So now that we took care of that, though, I want to start the interview with your backstory. So tell us about yourself outside of your career.
well, outside of my career, I'm pretty lazy. I just hang out in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, play with my brother. I like to garden, like to go garage sailing with my Mimi every Saturday, and I like to go to church on Wednesday and play with my Barbies, FaceTime my friends. My life is pretty chill off of set because, just the rush of, doing work and just being everywhere at one time. And, sometimes you just got to take a breath for a moment.
So it sounds like you do a pretty good job of trying to be a normal kid when you can be.
Yeah, my parents do a really good job at making me feel like a normal kid, but sometimes that's not fun because sometimes they're like, you want to be a normal kid? Do the dishes. No!
Well, good on them for keeping you in line there. So, but you started your career in the industry at age 2, with your first projects being for Chuck E. Cheese's and Visit Orlando, if I did my research correctly. So obviously you didn't have much input on your career early on. What did your parents see in you that kind of drove them to the industry?
Actually, I kind of started my parents on that because my mom worked at an agent at BMG, and her boss had a client for Parenting Magazine, and they were auditioning kids, and my mom's boss was like, "Hey, do you want to you should take Brooklynn in. She's fun and quirky and little and cute, and you should try her." And my mom was like, no, I don't want her to be in the business. It seems too much for a 2-year-old. And then people kept telling her, go ahead and do it. And it was actually my grandma, my Mimi, who I love so much and I miss her so much, who actually was like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And I was crazy at that photo shoot, but they said, go ahead, do it. And then once more commercials came in, and then I kind of was doing background work, which I loved, and to walk from the stairs to the elevator. I would make a funny face or do something. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I did so good, but I think I can do better on that one. And my parents always asked me before I did a project, and I always, because I was like,
And normally when I talk to actors, there's some middle ground between when they started and what they refer to as kind of their big break.
yeah.
But for you, I mean, that timeline was really compressed because you were so young. So you were cast in the 2017 film, The Florida Project, which of course everybody here in Florida knows that film so well. But let's start with the casting. Tell us about that process and how you got the job.
Well, I was doing commercial work and, going in and auditioning, and there was 4 years of time that I did before the Florida Project, from doing photo shoots to background work to commercials. So Patty at an agency put in my headshot, and they didn't bring me in until the last round of auditions. And they were about to give up on the movie when Sean was like, let's just bring in this last girl, see if she's okay, or like see if we can fit her in. And I came in and I waited for a long time with a bunch of other kids, but I didn't mind the wait because I had my grandma there with me and I had snacks. I was all good. Once I went in to audition, they were like, yeah. And then I tested with Valeria, who plays Jancy, and Christopher, who plays Scooty. And we all just kind of like, we were the little rascals, which was Sean's vision for the Florida Project kids. So he loved that. And then a few weeks later, he said, someone called us up and they said, hey, you got the job.
So, I mean, it's a great story of just sticking with it and hanging in there until the very end. And, the Florida Project, as you well know, is produced a little bit differently than most films. What were your impressions of the film as filming was taking place?
I didn't really know what I didn't really know what it was like, that there were supposed to be trailers or anything. I had so much fun with the crew, and Sean did such like a good job of being with us. I just enjoyed it so much, like coming on set, doing my job, like being in the scene and eating ice cream all the time, that it really didn't matter. Like, and if I have those two things, and that really goes for me now too, is like a lesson of being like, if you just be able to act, do what you love, and have people around you who love you and support that you're doing this job, it doesn't really matter of quantity or quality. It's it's what you do, and you get to love it.
So then the film comes out and it's an amazing hit. And there are rave reviews, there are award nominations, and most importantly, it brought to light a really serious problem in Florida, in Central Florida specifically. Did you ever imagine that the film would be so well received? And what was it like after the film came out?
I didn't really know about, my parents kind of guarded me from like all the like love of the movie and like everything. Like they're like, okay, you're going to France to like go with Sean and Val and Christopher. Like go and have fun. And like I went there and I did interviews and I did premieres, and like my mom's like, oh, remember when you met like blah blah blah? I met like Sophia Coppola, all these like amazing actors. I'm like, oh, that person with the really cool purse. Yeah, I like that person. And so, and it was just basically going and having fun and traveling the world, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And I know now that it's a big hit, but the most important thing to going to London, to France, to all those things, to TIFF, is that I got to tell the story of Mooney, and I got to bring it to light, and I got to speak up for some voices that weren't heard.
Do you have a favorite place that you traveled when the film was going around?
Cans. I will always love Cans because that was the first thing that we ever went to, and like there's like these fancy hotels and like these little bistros, and me and my dad were just like on the dance floors, and there's like this ice cream party where we got to have unlimited ice cream, and it was
Well, you mentioned being able to tell your story. I mean, you have a really different perspective than most of us that are adults watching the film. I mean, at the time you were 7 years old. How do you explain the story of your character?
well, my parents at first, they were kind of skeptical of the script because it was kind of had things that weren't appropriate for a 7-year old. But I came up to my parents, and actually the story of Mooney is why we did the Florida project, because I went up to them and I said, I really want to tell her story, and I see her pain and I really connect with her. And I see her and I really want to tell her a story because this is something that I never knew about. Like I went to Disney all the time and I never knew about these people who were living right by Disney but couldn't afford to go. And that made me so sad that I was like, if this can help just the littlest of people, this can help the tiniest person, that I did my job right. So I really harped on that and being like, Mom, Dad, I really want to do this.
It's great perspective for someone who was so young at the time. And it really probably changed your life, that film. Tell us about the opportunities that have come since then.
Well, I've done the one and only Ivan on Disney, which was great because I live on Disney. I eat, sleep, and breathe Disney. But I also, the biggest thing was Home Before Dark, really, because it's like I've made a family in Home Before Dark, but also it was like Apple TV, and I had like all these Apple products. Like my parents had Apple phones, Apple headphones, and like I had an Apple iPad. And it was just like, man, that's cool. Like I didn't know about that. And I also got to experience what it's like being on a show and the different atmosphere of it. And I'm shooting season 2 now, and I've made such a great family on it that like I'm still in touch with, and that like I'm probably gonna have for the rest of my life. And that's something that's really great and really special. I also got the amazing opportunity to do colors and like learning to tell other important stories a lot, because like seeing all these important projects that I've been doing and all these projects that mean something, we've been learning to do scripts that really mean something, and what a real story and what a meaningful story is like.
And now you mentioned that you're currently shooting season 2. Tell us about the series. Tell us where we can find that specifically.
Apple TV, and if you have a Roku or a Fire Stick, you can get it on there. And it's just you have to buy the app and put in some passcode. And it's Apple TV Plus. So you can't go to the general Apple TV app. It has to be Apple TV Plus. And just subscribe and watch Home Before Dark. And there's a bunch of amazing other shows on there, because me and my family, we bought Apple TV and we have Apple TV, and we're watching Home Before Dark, but also we found a lot of other good shows like the Snoopies. They put those out. It was really good.
Did I read correctly that you directed a film?
Mhm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a short film called Colors, and I actually did do it with Sean, and it's about these two friends, and one gets sick, and it's all about the other one learning how to come to the aid of her friend in showing the perspective. And it was also based off of something in my life that had happened to me and my family early on. And just going through that. And Facebook reached out to me and reached out to Sean actually and was like, hey, do you want to direct this film? And he was like, you know, it has to be like they gave him a genre. And he was like, actually, I think Brooklyn Prince would actually be really good for this, like, because she wants to be a director. And he came to me with it, and I was like, yeah, of course, I want to be. Yeah. And me and Sean sat down, and I remember writing down a bunch of ideas and, fleshing it out, and, you know, just going through the editing process and the ADR and, being in control of the shots and the visual effects and, scoring. It was just so special. Like I got to go through the movie and I got to help score it. And that was just so amazing. Like I could pick the music that I wanted and what the tone of the scene felt like. And I got to work with the person who was scoring it. It was just so great. And it premiered at the Florida Film Festival 2020. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go because of the.
Mhm.
but it felt so good that I was showing it to my people and where I come from, and that's a really special experience.
So besides these few things that we've talked about, what's on the horizon for you in the future? Where should people look for you in 2021?
Season 2 of Home Before Dark, Apple TV Plus, and also Settlers. It was this movie that I filmed in South Africa a while back before I came for season 2 of Home Before Dark. And it's really cool. It's directed by Wyatt Rockefeller, and they should be selling it to, I think, the Berlin Film Festival or something. They should be selling it. It might take some deep digging, but it's going to be great. It's going to be really artistic and fun. And it was Wyatt's first movie. And, it's very special to be a part of someone's first directing movie. And that's literally part of why I did it, was because I saw that Wyatt had this passion for it. So I'm really excited for him to watch people see his movie, because I know that was a special experience for me when Colors came out. So.
Excellent. And if people want to keep up with your career, is there a website or social media pages they should look for?
The Brooklyn Kimberly on Instagram and Twitter, and Apple TV Plus. Things are coming out there. And if you have Disney Plus, then you can watch The One and Only Ivan. And the Lego movie I did is actually coming out on Netflix. So
excellent. Brooklyn, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. Congratulations on all of this success you've had. Good luck going forward. And thanks for being on the Film Florida podcast.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Film Florida podcast. For more information about Film Florida, go to filmflorida.org or visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Check out the Film Florida merchandise at teespring.com/stores/Film Florida. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast.